welcome back to the Great Ojibwe Baking Show. I'm your host, Marissa Carr, and today we're going to make some coconut chocolate chip cookies. And the reason why we're making cookies again today is because I am taking my car out for a drive this afternoon for the first time in a month. I don't know how much you guys know about fucking routine automobile maintenance, but if, like me, you haven't driven or been anywhere since the shelter-in-place began, even if you're not going anywhere, you should still really take your car out for a drive at least once a month if you haven't prepared it for long-term storage, which I haven't. Make sure that your battery doesn't die, burn off any condensation that is under your hood or inside any of the mechanical parts of your car that might cause rust. Try to make sure that rodents don't nest inside your car and like chew through your wires and hoses and shit. And if you do that, you should try to drive it for at least 20 minutes, drive it long enough for the engine to get warm. So that's what I'm doing this afternoon, but since I'm going out, I want to do a contactless drop-off of treats to a couple people, and I chose cookies because they're really easy to pack up. You don't need anything really special to store them to keep them from getting squished, and who doesn't love a chocolate chip cookie? Nobody that I know. You guys might notice that I have been a little slower on posting videos lately, and honestly, I'm just running out of baking supplies. Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm not starving. I just, I need to do a grocery order and it feels like a lot of pressure. Like, oh, I have to decide what I want to eat for the next 3 weeks and I don't fucking know. So I've just, been putting it off and living off like cereal and pizza rolls, which is fine. It's fine. It's a choice. It's a choice that I'm making. But hopefully I'll get my shit together and do that soon. And then we'll be able to bake together some more. If there's something specific that you want to make, let me know so I can make sure that I have the shit to make it. Before we get started with the cookies, I want to give shout outs to a couple people who have sent in responses to recent episodes of the Great Ojibwe Baking Show. First shout out is to my friend Kristen, and she sent a picture of these thumbprint cookies that she made. Looking good, Kristen. And you know, Kristen is Dakota, and Dakota people are the traditional enemies of Ojibwe people, of Anishinaabe people, but you know, I didn't fucking start a YouTube channel to stir that shit up again. So great job, Kristen. I love your cookies. Keep watching. You're doing a great job. I also want to give a shout out to my friend Lisa. And Lisa did not send in pictures of anything that she baked, but she did send in a fairly extensive list of comments and suggestions for improvement. So you might be reading this list and thinking, wow, that's fucking insane. And you're not wrong, but let me tell you a story about Lisa. One time when I think I was a freshman in college, Lisa called me and she said, hey, what are you doing? Put on some pants, I'm coming to pick you up. And I got in her car and she drove me to a park and sat me down on a picnic table and read me a list that she had like written out and put together of things that I could improve about myself. And she prefaced it by saying, you know, right now you're kind of quirky, but you're gonna get older and that won't be cute anymore, and I think you could be really fly. There are just a few things that we need to fix about you. And it was shit like, wear better shoes and buy a strapless bra so you can start wearing tank tops. Which again, you might be hearing this and saying, that sounds fucking insane too. And like, maybe, but at the same time, I think you also really have to appreciate a couple things. One is the fact that, she was concerned enough about me, maybe for good reason, I don't fucking know, but concerned enough to write all of this shit out, come pick me up, take me to a park, and then go over this list with me in pretty extensive detail. But the other thing is, I think you just really have to appreciate her commitment to continuous improvement. So, as you can see, per her request, I am wearing makeup today. I don't know if it's gonna last. I don't know if I'm gonna get to all of the shit on her list. Probably not. But, you know, today, this is for you, Lisa. Anyway, I've been talking for a long fucking time, so let's make some cookies. So we're gonna start by mixing up our dry ingredients like we so often do when we make cookies. So here's a cup and a half of flour. We have a half teaspoon of baking soda, and then just a little pinch of salt. That's about a quarter teaspoon, and I'm gonna blend all of this together with my wire whisk. And next up, we're gonna put together our wet ingredients, and that's gonna start with a stick of butter. I've softened it to room temperature. When you do this, you don't want your butter to be hard and cold right out of the fridge, and you don't want it to be melty either. You just wanna be able to kind of like poke it, and you can poke it really easily. And I'm gonna put this in my stand mixer until the butter is beaten so there are no lumps. You can see that my butter's all beaten up. Now I'm gonna add my sugar. So first I have a half cup of packed brown sugar and a half cup of white sugar. I'm gonna throw this back on the stand mixer until everything is creamed together and it's nice and light and air. So we've beat our sugar, or we've creamed our sugar into our butter. And when you start creaming it, either with your stand mixer or your hand mixer, at first it's gonna form little pebbles, but you wanna keep going until it's all kind of in one lump like this. Now, one thing that Kristen and Lisa both requested was information about things that you can substitute when you're baking. So in a cookie like this, you could substitute up to half the butter for a fruit puree, which could be like applesauce, a mashed banana, a mashed avocado if you're fucking fancy. You could also substitute half of the butter for oil. Just be aware that any of those substitutions that you make will definitely change the texture of your cookie a little bit. And that's okay. I just, don't want you fucking coming back to me saying, like, I used applesauce instead and now the texture's weird. What the fuck? Like, well, yes, that is something that could happen. And also, especially if you use a fruit or an oil with a strong flavor, that will also affect the flavor of your cookies, which again is totally okay. It's just something to be aware of. So now that our butter and our sugar are creamed together, we're gonna add 1 egg, and we're gonna add a teaspoon of coconut extract. If you don't have coconut extract, you could use vanilla. If you have almond extract, I think that could be really nice in these cookies. And if you're thinking like, man, Marissa, you sure have been using some fucking exotic flavoring extracts lately, it's because I'm out of vanilla. Like I said, I really fucking need to order groceries. But anyway, I'm gonna pop this back in the stand mixer, and then we'll come back and add the dry ingredient. Cool, did that. You can see that my fucking butter, sugar, egg mixture is nice and fluffy, and it's gotten kind of lighter colored. So now we're gonna add in our dry ingredients, and we're gonna add them in thirds. So I'm gonna add about a third now, and then stick it on the stand mixer, mix it up, and then I'll take it off and add half of what's left in this bowl, mix it up again, and then I'll add the rest of that. Okay, you can see that our dough kind of formed a nice cohesive mass. It's very in line with what you would fucking expect cookie dough to be like. So finally, we're gonna add a half bag of chocolate chips and about 3/4 of a cup of flaked coconut. Now, if you do not have coconut, or if you don't have chocolate chips, or if you don't have those amounts, you can totally adjust. You can put in more or less of either of these ingredients, depending on what you like. You could also sub for pretty much fucking anything you have in your pantry. You could put raisins in here. I know a lot of people hate raisins. I don't. So you could put raisins in here, you could put other chopped up dried fruit. If you have like a bag of potato chips with crumbs sitting at the bottom, or you know, pretzel crumbs, you could put those in here and mix them all up. But you know, you can fucking be creative. Like, the stakes are actually quite low. Like, the fucking cookie police aren't gonna come and drag you off to jail. So I added chocolate chips and coconut. You can add whatever you like, but now I'm gonna throw it back on the mixer and mix it until these are just blended. So we mixed in the chocolate chips and the coconut. I've scooped out the dough in heaping tablespoonfuls and made balls on this cookie sheet. You can make them smaller if you want. You could use a teaspoon. Just keep in mind, if you make them smaller, you're probably gonna have to decrease your cooking time a little bit so they don't fucking burn. I didn't grease my baking sheet at all or anything because the cookie dough has enough butter in it that these should come off the cookie sheet by themselves if you lift them with the spatula about 10 minutes after they come out of the oven. Now, this recipe makes 20 cookies. This is my first sheet. I have another one off to the side. In my opinion, that is kind of the perfect amount to give a few away and then still have a couple left to snack on later. So I'm gonna pop these guys in the oven, which I've preheated to 350 degrees for about 12 minutes. Our cookies are out of the oven. For me, 13 minutes ended up being just the right amount of time. It'll probably vary a little for you depending on how your oven is calibrated and actually how dark your baking sheet is, because that will also make a difference in how long you should bake your cookies. When I got these guys out of the oven, the first thing I did was I gave them a little sprinkle of sea salt and I let them cool for about 20 minutes. Let's see how we did. Yeah, that's really good. This is one of my favorite cookies, you guys. I hope you enjoy it. I hope the friends I'm dropping it off to enjoy it too. This has been the Great Ojibwe Baking Show. If you like this video, share it. If you have any questions or there's something you want to bake with me, leave it in the comments, and I'll see you next time.
Around, and if you're ever talking like an amateur, there will always be a person you on my floor. You ever sit around and shoot a shit? I laugh at the chest and I laugh at kid. And I go, you got it, it's like I stayed. Your hair's gone gray, but you're still a kid. I'm really best, no one wants to be a kid no more. 'Cause the most fun I ever had was on your floor.